First things first, you gotta eat plants. Plants are the only foods that have true fiber in them, okay? You eat enough fiber, you're going to be full. In America, we eat around 30 grams or less, okay? In some countries in Africa, they're eating 100 grams of fiber every day. And when you eat that amount of fiber, it is not only gonna make you full, but it's gonna make your gut very healthy because fiber is the food for the good bacteria in our guts. The more fiber you put in your diet, the more you feed the good bacteria in your gut, the better the good bacteria in your gut, or the more that's present, the healthier you're going to be. 70 to 80% of our immune system is made by the good bacteria in our gut, amongst other things, okay? So eat plants. So the more you eat plants, the less you will eat. The less you eat, the less you have to spend on food, okay? It just works that way, all right? And especially the less you'll eat, once you actually get cleansed and your body detoxifies, you get the toxicity out of the body, you get the parasites, which I've talked about in several other videos, out of the body. You lower the amount of yeast that is in the body that's causing you to eat so much sugar. Now that your body is clean and detoxified, you're definitely gonna eat less because the body really only wants nutrients, okay? It doesn't want a whole lot of food. It wants the nutrients that is actually in the food, because we know that because most of your bowel movement, that's your food that's coming out. The only thing that's extracted out of it is the actual nutrients that is in the food, okay? And the fiber, okay? And most of the fiber comes out on the other end too, okay? So it's really important to understand the healthier you eat, okay, the less you will eat, okay? So that's one way it saves you money. Number two, the healthier you eat, the less medical bills you're gonna have, okay? On average, it costs about $17,000 if you're diabetic, okay? And there's a large percentage of the population that is either pre-diabetic or diabetic, especially here in America, okay? So it saves you less on medical bills, okay? It saves you less on, prescription drugs. It saves you less even on your insurance, okay? Even if you go to get life insurance, okay? Let's say you go out to get life insurance, you have to take a health test. Okay. And when you take that health test, part of that will be your weight. Part of that will be asking if you smoke cigarettes. Part of that will be asking or taking your blood pressure, checking your blood sugar. All of these things will determine what your premium will be for your life insurance policy as well, too. All right. So you save less on that, too. All right. And as I said, less prescription bills, less co-pays. So, and less time off of work, less time in the hospital, less doctor visits, the list goes on. And the reason why that's so important is because medical debt is one of the highest debts for Americans, okay? So most people, if you were to think, well, what are the highest debts for people today? And most people would not think medical debt. But when you start to think about the cost of being diabetic, $17,000 a year, the cost of getting cancer, okay? Many cancers, which are actually, you can protect yourself from, okay? You can prevent. When you start to think of the cost of cancer, it could be $100,000 a year with some of these medical treatments, especially if you start to get in some of these gene therapies, okay? So think about that. The long term, you gotta look at the investment, okay? Because every day that you eat well, you add wellness to your life, okay? It's like health deposits. You're either making health deposits or you're making health withdrawals, okay? So really important, all right? Eat healthier, less medical bills. It means you're healthier. And it also means that you have a longer, higher quality of life, okay? It's cool to live to 76, but let's say, for instance, you get diagnosed with dementia, which a lot of people are getting diagnosed with dementia in the early 50s, late 40s now. Okay, so let's say you get diagnosed with dementia in your early 50s, okay? Then you get diabetes, then you have a heart attack and a stroke. So you live out the remaining 26 years of your life in a state where you're bedridden, you don't remember who your children are. Like, that's not the life to live, okay? So that's what I mean by when you eat healthier, it pays in the long run, okay? So it actually saves you a lot of money, okay? Number three, it creates natural beauty, okay? It creates natural beauty, okay? A lot of people are paying oodles of money for cosmetic and beauty products to make themselves beautiful. both men and women, and also surgeries. Also, people are investing in a lot of things to prevent themselves from aging. Those are becoming big products as well now too. And guess what? When you eat healthier, you age gracefully. Not just age gracefully in terms you get to keep your health, but you look younger. Your skin is more beautiful. Okay. Your hair is more healthier, longer. Nails are more healthier, longer. And I can't tell you how much money people spend on hair, nails, and skin. Okay. And all of those things are beautified when you eat a whole foods plant-based diet and your diet is balanced. Okay. So that's another way it saves you a lot of money, because now you're not spending money on all of this kind of stuff. Okay. Number 3, which is really important, is you live longer and happier. Okay. During the pandemic, we discovered that people were lonelier. We discovered that people were more depressed. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of that loneliness and depression has come even after the pandemic is over. Okay. And the beautiful thing about eating a whole foods plant-based diet, it's been proven. I lived in what was called a blue zone in Okinawa, Japan. And these blue zones are zones or regions around the world. There's only 5 of them around the entire world where people live the longest and they have the highest amount of centenarians, people who live to 100. Okay, so I lived in Okinawa, Japan, one of the zones that has had one of the highest amounts of centenarians historically. And they live happier, longer lives because they eat primarily a plant-based diet, no processed foods, things of that nature. Okay, so you're gonna live longer and happier too. Okay, so that's one of the upsides. You live longer and happier, you're gonna spend much less money. Okay, so just think about it. Longer, happier, healthier, less disease, less money on medications, as I mentioned before, or healthcare, and then less emotional eating. All of these things tie into each other. Okay, so without any further ado, let's jump into some of these money saving tips that are going to give you what you can save when you go to the grocery store, the farmer's market, etc. Okay, so plant-based on a budget. Number 1 thing you could do to help put money back in your pocket, stop eating out. Okay, or at least eat out less. So instead of making a meatless Monday, you need to make it 1 day a week or twice a week where you eat out. The rest of the days you're preparing your own food. Okay, that will save you a ton of money. I had to learn this for myself personally at the beginning of my journey, because at the beginning of my journey, I was always thinking, well, I don't have time to make my own food. I don't know how to make my own food. And then what I discovered was all the food that I was making before, when I was eating, a meat-based diet, essentially, because every meal I had meat with it. What I discovered was all the things that I was eating was seasoned with plants. Meaning, if I ate the meat without plants, without any type of seasoning on it, it would not taste good. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, if the seasoning, all seasoning is plant-based, okay, natural seasoning, well, if that be the case, then it's the plants that make it taste good. So I can, of course, use plants to make my food taste good. So that was my thinking. And so I started making my own recipes, looking up recipes all the time on the internet. And I discovered that, the really cool thing about, getting into the kitchen is that you learn that you can make food, and making your own food is an act of self-love, in my opinion. Okay, so I have a recipe book out. You definitely can check that out. It's Dr. Bobby's Healing Recipes and Remedies. So make sure you check that out. I'll show you that at the end. So start making your own food. And I think you're really, really gonna love that process, because you're gonna get to learn how to make your own food, which means that you're not gonna be out at expensive restaurants who put a price tag on the food that they're making and preparing for you, in addition to the service or gratuity charge that you're also paying for as well too. So that's number 1. Stop eating out, start preparing and making your own food. That was a game changer for me. That saved me so much money.